Trump thought Europe would stay silent. He was wrong. Just days after Donald Trump shocked the world with a brutal 30% tariff on all EU imports, the European Union is gearing up for a response that could change everything. France calls it blackmail. Germany urges caution. But behind closed doors, Brussels is uniting like never before. With 93 billion euros in countermeasures locked and loaded, the EU is sending a clear message. We will not be bullied. This isn't just a trade dispute. It's a global power struggle between two giants. And as the August 1st deadline closes in, Europe stands ready to defend its economy, its sovereignty, and its future. Will they strike back or strike a deal? Trump's tariff announcement hit hard, but the European Union chose not to respond with immediate retaliation. Instead, it extended its suspension of countermeasures until August 1st. On the surface, this looked like hesitation. In reality, it was a deliberate move. European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen emphasized that diplomacy remains the preferred path, but added that Europe is preparing strong countermeasures if needed. This isn't retreat, it's timing. By avoiding an instant reaction, the EU is keeping doors open for negotiation while buying time to coordinate a unified response among member states. France wants a tougher stance. Germany is focused on economic stability. But despite internal differences, Europe is aligned on one point: it will not be coerced. Officials in Brussels know this moment is bigger than trade. It's about credibility and control. Trump may want a confrontation, but the EU is playing the long game, showing restraint, building leverage, and preparing to act with precision. With only weeks left before the deadline, Europe's message is clear. We are ready to talk, but not at any cost. Within the EU, the initial reactions to Trump's tariff threat revealed a split in tone, but not in resolve. French President Emmanuel Macron called the 30% tariff a direct attack on European sovereignty. His response was immediate and firm. The EU must prepare countermeasures and stand up to what he called economic blackmail. Macron has consistently argued that giving in to pressure now would only invite more aggression later. On the other side, German Chancellor Friedrich Merz urged caution. With Germany's economy heavily reliant on exports, especially to the US, Merz emphasized the importance of diplomacy. He warned that an escalating trade war could derail Europe's recovery and disrupt critical industries like automotive and machinery. Despite these differences in tone, both leaders agree on the fundamentals. Europe must protect its interests, defend its industries, and remain united. Behind the scenes, Germany and France are now working closely with European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen to finalize a coordinated strategy. The goal is clear: avoid a crisis if possible, but ensure Europe does not appear weak or divided. Trump may have triggered this standoff, but Europe is preparing to respond. Not emotionally, but strategically. While the EU continues to push for diplomacy, it is not standing idle. Behind closed doors in Brussels, two powerful countermeasure packages are already prepared, targeting up to 93 billion euros worth of US exports. The first package was originally designed in response to earlier US steel and aluminum tariffs. It covers 21 billion euros in American goods and was paused for 90 days to allow negotiations. That pause has now been extended until August 1st, but it could end instantly if talks collapse. The second package, developed more recently, targets an additional 72 billion euros in exports. The details remain confidential, but officials confirm it includes a broad range of American sectors, from agriculture to technology. These aren't just symbolic threats. The measures are legally backed, politically supported, and economically targeted. If activated, they could have a serious impact on U.S. exporters and industries already grappling with inflation and supply chain instability. At the same time, the EU is considering invoking its anti-coercion instrument, a legal framework designed to protect member states from external economic pressure. It's a clear signal. The EU is not bluffing. Retaliation isn't the first choice. But if pushed, Europe is ready to act. While tensions with Washington dominate headlines, the European Union is quietly expanding its global trade network, sending a clear message. Europe is not dependent on the US. Just hours after Trump's tariff threat, the EU finalized a landmark trade agreement with Indonesia, one of the fastest-growing economies in Asia. This deal, negotiated over 9 years, reflects Europe's strategic shift, moving toward new markets in Southeast Asia, South America, and beyond. Talks with India and Thailand are also accelerating. Brussels is actively working to diversify trade partnerships to reduce its exposure to U.S. unpredictability. These efforts are not just about economics. They're geopolitical. By aligning with emerging economies and stable partners, the EU is increasing its global leverage. It's a signal to Washington and the world. Europe has options. Internally, EU leaders are also focused on strengthening the single market, simplifying rules, improving cross-border trade, and investing in regional resilience. This inward and outward strategy strengthens Europe's negotiating position. Trump's tariffs may be an attempt to corner the EU, but instead, they're pushing Europe to think bigger, act faster, and move beyond traditional alliances. The message is clear. If one door closes, Europe will open 3 more. Across Europe, industry leaders are voicing growing concern, and in some cases, outright frustration. From automotive giants in Germany to cheese producers in France and pharmaceutical exporters in Ireland, businesses are preparing for severe disruptions if Trump's tariffs take effect. The automotive sector, particularly vulnerable due to existing U.S. tariffs, could face billions in additional costs. German manufacturers like BMW and Volkswagen have warned that production slowdowns and job cuts are likely if access to the U.S. market is further restricted. Agricultural exporters are equally alarmed. France's dairy industry, which ships nearly half its produce abroad, including to the U.S., says a 30% tariff could be devastating. Wine and food producers are bracing for significant losses. The pressure is mounting on EU leaders to act decisively. Trade associations are calling for targeted retaliation, while urging the Commission to protect the competitiveness of European firms. This growing domestic pressure is shaping the EU's response strategy. Leaders know they must balance diplomacy with the need to defend industries, jobs, and economic stability. For Brussels, it's no longer just about foreign policy. It's about protecting livelihoods at home and sending a message that Europe won't fold under pressure. With the August 1st deadline approaching fast, the European Union has entered the final phase of its response. The message from Brussels is now unambiguous. We are still open to a deal, but we are fully prepared to retaliate. President Ursula von der Leyen, backed by key leaders across the bloc, has reiterated that the EU prefers a fair, negotiated solution. But if talks fail, proportionate countermeasures will be implemented immediately and decisively. This isn't political theater. It's a policy backed by legal frameworks, economic calculations, and growing public support. Europe has worked hard to avoid escalation, offering multiple windows for compromise. But Trump's aggressive tariff push has made one thing clear. Diplomacy has limits. The EU will not accept threats as a basis for negotiation. In the coming days, EU trade ministers will finalize the implementation timeline, sector targets, and legal parameters for response. Meanwhile, allies around the world are watching closely, many facing similar pressure from Washington. What happens next could redefine transatlantic relations for years to come. Europe stands at a crossroads. Either reset the rules of fair trade or prepare for one of the most significant economic confrontations in modern history. What do you think? Should the EU strike back or keep negotiating? The stakes are high, and your voice matters. Like, share, and subscribe for more updates on this unfolding crisis. Drop your thoughts in the comments. We're reading every word. Stay informed. Stay engaged.